Hi everybody, my name is Bethlehem Hadgu and welcome to my YouTube channel. So this is actually my first video on YouTube and I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel because I think I have a very unique life and a very unique background, and I thought it would be really fun to share my life experiences and certain topics I love talking about. A little background about me: I'm actually originally from the country Eritrea. I was born in Asmara in Eritrea, which is the capital of the country Eritrea. And for those that don't know about Eritrea, Eritrea is on the Horn of East Africa and it's right next to Ethiopia. It used to be part of Ethiopia in history, but then Eritrea got its independence around 1999. So there was a war going on before that happened, and then Eritrea finally got its independence, and that's where me and my family is from. I came to the United States of America when I was 7 years old in 2007, and I immigrated here with my mom and my 3 brothers, and because of that, I was finally able to come to America. My dad was actually already in America for 3 years, getting us political asylum status so we could escape the oppression of the government at that time and come to America, which is the land of the free. So I'm very grateful to be an American. Even though that's happened at least 15 years ago, I'm still so grateful, and it's only because of my father that I'm able to be a citizen of America. And all of my life is indebted to my dad. At least all my life in America is indebted to my dad. And obviously because I came from my dad and my mom, but you know what I'm trying to say. Anywho, so that's my background. And then a little more about my actual life. In terms of day-to-day and now, I'm actually a graduate of the Juilliard School. I play the viola. I'm a professional violist, professional classical musician. I went to Juilliard for my bachelor's degree back in 2018, and then I also went to Juilliard for my master's degree, grad school, from 2022 to 2024. And so I went to the Juilliard School, which was my dream school, and I studied classical music for all 6 years in 2 of my degrees. And I'm also very grateful to that, and I live in New York City, and I got to live in New York City because of that reason, and also just stayed right after school. So yeah, that's my background. But today, what I'm talking about is actually not music. More of my other videos will be more about music and other topics, but today I'm talking about my very special trip to the Holy Land, Israel. It was actually my very first time being in Israel, and I went about a week or so ago, and I was there for about a week and a half. And my background is I'm a Catholic. I'm a devout Catholic woman, and I'm so grateful to be Catholic. I'm so grateful to know the truth. I'm so grateful to live in that truth in the Catholic Church. And actually the reason why I'm Catholic is not because I converted. I'm a Creole Catholic, as a lot of Catholics are, but I always say I grew up pretty poor in my family, and we just didn't have ease within the means of finances. But I always say I grew up in the richest household because I grew up knowing Jesus Christ and growing up in the Catholic Church because of my parents, and that's how we were raised. And I think there's nothing wealthier than growing up as a Catholic. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? So it was my very first time in Israel, and it was so magical. And I'm gonna go through all the places I went to, and especially going to Israel now during the whole Israel-Palestine conflict. And so yeah, I'm just gonna go through the places and share my experiences because I feel like nobody's really visiting Israel, at least now, and the fact I got to is very cool, and I would love to share more about it, and that's what I'm gonna do. So in my trip to Israel, we went through a lot of sites. I went with like a Christian group. They weren't all Catholic, but they were all Christian, and so we all got to experience that as Christians. And the airport I landed was in Tel Aviv, and that's a very famous airport, which is like where people end up, you know, fly from here. And also that's the only airport now that is taking flights from other to Israel, Tel Aviv. So I'm just gonna talk about my experience and my journey. So to Israel for the first time, I'll just say some few words. I would say it's magical. Look, I believe in Jesus. I believe I'm a Christian. I'm strong in my faith. But there's no better word than the word magical, even though I don't believe in magic. There's no other word to describe how I felt being in Israel. There's no other word that I would describe being in Israel, and that word is magical. And so I'm gonna go through the places that we went to. So the first place we went to was the Basilica of the Annunciation, and I have a list because there was just too many places to, to remember, write down, know history, experience, etc. So the Basilica of the Annunciation is where the angel Gabriel spoke to Mary and said, "You will have a son, and that son's name will be Jesus." So that was pretty magical. Like, wow, this is where my savior was conceived. Everyone knows he wasn't conceived. Okay. She wasn't conceived. Okay. She was a virgin. Don't forget that part. That's why he is holy. He's set apart. In the Basilica of the Annunciation, that is actually in Nazareth, and everyone knows the saying Jesus of Nazareth. That's like where he grew up. And it's the area around the basilica as well, so we all got to see that. And then after that, the place we went to was Migdal. It's like a town in northern Israel near the Sea of Galilee, and that is also another famous place. And it's also significant, the site of Magdala, and it's Mary Magdalene, who is a very devout follower in Christ, and she was a woman. And that is also where her birthplace was also at. So it's just also very interesting. And then Tiberias. Tiberias was a really amazing place, and this was it's as the place where Christ was resurrected in the time after that whole scene of him appearing to his disciples alive and well, post-crucifixion and rising from the dead after 3 days. So that was really, really cool, because you just see the spring water, and you just imagine his disciples like, "What? Is that Jesus? I can't believe it." Obviously it didn't go down that way. It's probably a little more profound. And after that, we went to Capernaum, and Capernaum is mentioned in the Gospels multiple times, and it's the place where Jesus preached a lot to his disciples, and also the place where that story of his miracle of healing the paralyzed man, like from the book of Mark and Luke, and then that was also really cool. Without having gone to Israel, and just picturing all of these stories in your head is so different from going there, reading scripture, and being where he was at. What? So it makes it even more visceral and really intimate. We ended up going to the Jordan River, and everyone knows about the Jordan River. It's where Jesus was baptized by John, and we got to see the water, and I also got to get an empty bottle and fill it up with the Jordan River, just as like a type of thing. And so it was really cool. And then some people were doing baptisms in the Jordan River. I didn't do that because I'm Catholic. I've already been baptized by a priest, so I'm good off that. But looking at it and seeing people start their faith in the water, that was also really great. And also within the Jordan River, you can really see how beautiful the water is and how set apart. Of course, now everything's modernized in Israel. We're in a new century and all of that. But you could still see scripture being brought to life within all the moderations and the innovative architecture today that's been modernized, which was cool. And then the other place we went to is the Valley of Elah, and Valley of Elah is just like basically a field. It sounds cooler than it is, but it really is just a field of grass, and then we actually pulled off from the highway just to go see it. So really just like a football field without the football stuff. And so you get to see the big field, and you just imagine the story of the battle between David and Goliath, which a lot of people are not a Christian. The shepherd boy fighting giant Goliath. That feels like a lot. That feels very relatable today, to just experiencing life and fighting so many Goliaths as a little shepherd boy / woman, I guess. So my favorite part was being in Tiberias, and there were a lot of Catholic churches there actually. And there was also steps that verified that Jesus actually walked on and climbed, and also fed his disciples bread and fish on. So that was really cool. But within the Catholic Church that we visited in that area, I talked to a priest there, and I was like, can you pray for me? And I asked him to pray a very specific prayer that a lot of girls in their early 20s pray about all the time, and all my friends know what that prayer is. I'll keep you guessing, but I'm sure you probably can somewhat relate as or non-Christian, hey. And the next part we went to was Old City. Old City is so beautiful. Like, you could see how the strongest thing exists within mankind is religion. And so the Old City is split up into quarters of Christians, Muslim, Jewish, and an Armenian quarter. Sorry, that was the last one. And so everyone is kind of within religion, so you can kind of see doing their thing, but all sharing the land. And so that was really cool. And then the next part was the Western Wall, or it's also known as the Wailing Wall, because that's where a lot of Jewish people pray at, and they pray with other in fellowship, standing in front of the wall on Shabbat, which we actually experienced. So before our Shabbat dinner with the traditional Jewish family, we experienced Shabbat, the day of Shabbat, before the dinner, where all the Jewish people were praying with their Torah out, and you see all these beautiful women like in the most modest clothing, not showing any skin, which is so inspiring to me. I was like, oh, maybe I should just never show skin ever again. But maybe I'm just too Americanized. But seeing that was so cool, because it's like, man, I love female beauty, I love modesty, I love humility within women, and in America you don't see nothing but crop tops and stuff out, okay? And so seeing that was so beautiful, and it was just so inspiring. I got to talk to the locals, I got to talk to Jewish women. I'm like, what are you guys praying? Like, what's prayer? Or some of them were like standing on top of the wall that separates men and women, because the genders are separated during this time, and they would like look at the wall to look at the men, and I'm like, why are you guys looking over there? Why don't you just focus on your prayer? And they're just like, oh, we're just looking. I'm like, okay, we're so relatable. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, when I was in Nazareth, actually, I got to talk to a lot of locals that were from actually Palestine, and not actually from Israel. They're not Jewish people. They're Muslim, and they were like these 4 beautiful Muslim girls who were like in their late teens. I think they were like 16 old. They could like barely speak English, but they're just so innocent and light. And they're like, you guys are from America? Wow. They kind of shout, okay? And they're like, yeah, it's so cool. We never see Americans, especially now. And they're like, we hate Trump. He's so pro-Israel. I'm like, yeah, he is pro-Israel. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not sharing none of my opinions about what's going on, okay? I have my own opinions, and I'm not sharing that. And I was like, yeah, he's very pro-Israel. They're like, yeah. And telling me about their lives and things like that since the war started, and what it looks like now and things like that. That was such a treat. I love talking to the locals, okay? And then after the Western Wall, that's where we left off, was the Dome of the Rock. And the Dome of the Rock is a really famous place for Muslims in the history of the Prophet Muhammad there. And the top of the dome is gold, so it really stands out from all the architecture of the old city. That was really beautiful. And the other part is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I still don't know how to say it, but it's a place where the crucifixion of Jesus took place, and also the resurrection. So it has 2 significant histories there. And yeah, with that, you could kind of see the architecture and just imagine the crucifixion. Even though everything's modernized now, like I've said before, you could still have the ability to imagine with scripture out and just kind of coming alive to you. That was weird. And the next part was Via Dolorosa. And Via Dolorosa is the way of the cross, like all of the original stations of the cross that now Catholics pray during Lent. So we went to each Station of the Cross, and me and my Catholic friends were trying to do the Station of the Cross, but it was so hard because the tour guide is like yelling in our ear, and we're trying to pray the Station of the Cross and stay with the group and still know where we're going and being smushed by the locals. And we were like, okay, this is not ideal. We'll just individually do it and go from there. So that's what we ended up doing. And the next place we went to was Masada, and Masada is like this fortress overlooking the Dead Sea, and it looks very clay, like brownish. It looks like it's made out of clay, but it's obviously not. And it is the story of King Herod that took place, so that's like the setting of that story and that whole history. And the next part we went to was the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is extremely salty water. It's the lowest point on earth, and it's known for bordering between Israel and Jordan, and it's literally a border, so it like separates the two places. And it sits at like 400 below sea level, which I thought was really, really cool, which is why it's known as the lowest point on earth. And so it's known for the water being really salty, so salty that anyone, no matter how fat you are, you can float. Okay, don't worry, you can float. I didn't get in the water because I don't like gross stuff, and I just didn't want to. I just wanted to like sit and look at the landscape and kind of myself and just take in the trip. Because the other part was every place we went to was back to back to back to back to back. I'm like, this feels like a job. It's too much. I need a time to process all this. And to be honest, I just want to see and do the things Jesus was at and nothing else, to be honest. Like, that was interesting, but I just want to know and be where he was, and kind of contemplate, meditate, read the word in that way. But if I were to go back to Israel, it would be with a more relaxed group and kind of more relaxed schedule, because a lot of it was just too much. So I had to like not do some of the activities just so I could process what I just did, especially when it had to do with my Savior Jesus. Okay, so the other part, the next place we went to was Garden of Gethsemane. Now, Garden of Gethsemane is a really, really, really significant biblical site. It's on the foot of the Mount of Olives, and it's in Jerusalem. And the reason why it's so famous is because it's where Jesus prayed before his arrest and his crucifixion, and it's also the place where Jesus experienced profound struggle and spiritual surrender. So that was a place where Jesus really, really was in emotional turmoil about what was about to happen to him and humanity in general. So yeah, where he would always pray to God. I'm just gonna put it in quotes, "Not my will, but yours be done." And actually just praying to God that it's not my will, it's what you have for my life and what you decide and that will be what happens to me. And having that surrendered posture, that was really profound. Just because as a Christian and a Catholic, surrender is like the hardest part in faith in general, I think, just because we just innately want to control everything, and just to be in a place of rest, of where we have our heart open, our hands relaxed, our shoulders down, and we're just able to experience and take in what God has for our lives. And so being in that very humane place where Jesus felt, and where I'm also in my life spiritually, was very, very intimate and felt very special. And I'm just so grateful that I get to do this. I'm gonna keep saying that throughout. It might be annoying, but being in Israel, there's nothing else that screams the word gratitude as a Christian, like nothing else. Yeah, and another part I forgot to say is that that's also where Judas betrayed Jesus. Yeah. That's where he betrayed him. And then the last part we went to was Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv is actually the place we went to first, to the airport. But now we are going back to Tel Aviv. And also, by the way, Israel is really small. When they say the country's the size of New Jersey, it's facts, okay? It's facts, because we were driving everywhere, and it only took like an hour to get place to place. So that kind of supports. And so the last place we went to was Tel Aviv, and in Tel Aviv was the Jaffa port. And what's Jaffa port? It's a huge port where a lot of fishermen go to and from to fish, and it's also the site where Jonah from the book of Jonah sailed from to go to Nineveh before he got ate up by that whale. I don't know why I'm laughing. But that's where he went. That's where he left from to go to Nineveh on his mission, and where he disobeyed God and then got inside a whale because of that. See, that's what happens when you disobey God. Okay, you get eaten up by a whale, and he got spit out about 3 days. Okay, so that was really cool. Just to see the body of water, and then we saw the sunset. Oh my gosh, Israeli sunsets are so beautiful. It was just so beautiful. Everything is just so magical, and the sky, the water, the people, nothing better. And throughout the trip, the food was so good. The food, Mediterranean food, eats slaps, is so good. It's so good. And it's all hummus, lamb, it's a fish, pita bread. I know it sounds basic, but there was other ethnic names to it. I just don't remember. My favorite dessert I had was halwa, and halwa is made out of sesame. Everything is sesame based there. And also throughout the trip, every time I liked something at a restaurant that we ate, I'd write it down so I could make it later and add it to my recipe book that I personally have, because I love cooking. And I'm going to talk about cooking in another video and why women should cook and take it so seriously. But that's what I was doing on my trip the whole time. Every time we had something I liked, I would write it down and then replicate it at home, and then add ways to make it mine and add it to my book. So that's what I also love doing. My other favorite part was, okay, this sounds dumb, but I love Diet Coke. I know it's bad for you, but I don't drink any sugary drinks. I don't drink any liquid with sugar except Diet Coke, even though it's not real sugar. But the Diet Cokes here come from a glass. They come from a glass, and it looks like those traditional Coca-Cola bottles, but except it's Diet Coke. And there's just something nostalgic about drinking from a glass bottle. It just reminds me of Eritrea, my country that I said I'm from originally. All the sodas are in glass, and it just is so nostalgic for me, and it makes my meal so nice. Yeah, and I'm so grateful to have gone on this trip, especially during this time now, and hearing what the locals have to say about what's going on within the conflicts. And some of the conversations I had with the locals, especially the ones from Palestine, they were talking about how since October 7th they haven't had water, because they said that Israelis control every single thing that happens within their territory. And so since October 7th they haven't had water, and it obviously broke my heart. Yeah, and then there's also other things that we saw, and I'm just reporting about what I heard and saw. I'm not sharing my opinions on all of this stuff. I'm simply just sharing my experience. And another cool part was in Old City, Jerusalem, there was these beautiful markets. And during the market, while I was shopping for souvenirs for my family, I saw a beautiful Eucharistic procession of about 30 priests holding up the cross and singing Salve Regina, which is a very famous Catholic hymn. And that was so amazing to me, because I was walking around by myself, dilly-dallying and taking in the culture. And then all of a sudden, I just watch a procession. I'm like, oh, I love being Catholic. Yeah, that was amazing. I love talking to locals that were actually also Eritrean like me. I love that, because I got to talk to them in my native language, and it just felt so satisfying, because I'm in a foreign country. I don't speak Hebrew. I love the language. I love it. The language I speak is also a Semitic language, actually. I speak Tigrinya, and so I was talking to the locals. I was like, I'm just saying, hi, how are you? I came from America with a group, and I was asking them where I could buy spices, like Ethiopian spices, if they have it in Israel. But yeah, and that was really special to me, because it's wow, white people. Yeah, and overall, I love the trip. It was definitely, it was going from place to place to remember everything, because it's basically a lecture / educational experience at every place you are, and it's hard to take in all that information at once, because we went to 7 places a day. That's kind of a lot, especially after being done with college. Anyways, yeah, I really loved it. Would I go back? No, probably not. I'm kidding. I would go back to Bethlehem. How's that? I would go back with my actual close friends, where I know I'll have a lot of fun with my future person, and or my family. The only way I would go back. I thought it was an amazing experience. I loved it. I think Israel is such a land. It really is the Holy Land. It feels like it. And experiencing Jewish culture, Shabbat meals, all of the history of the Old Testament and New Testament was absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful God gave me this experience. All things are because of Him. And I know all the life issues that we all have, to get to go to the Holy Land at any period of our life is such a privilege. And it was a privilege for me, and I absolutely loved it. It was also cool to be in the Middle East. I've never been to the Middle East before. Yeah, so it was amazing to do that, and to do that as with my background, I felt very privileged to do so. And I hope you enjoy what I had to say. I hope you learned something or just enjoy me talking. And I'm going to be making way more videos now because I just think it's so fun. My other videos will be about classical music, cooking, certain topics, and life stuff, woman stuff, being a Catholic, because like my favorite thing, being a Catholic, and I'm just so passionate about Catholicism. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you watch my other videos, and I'll also be making videos of me playing / performing on my instrument, because that is what I do, and I hope you enjoyed that, and stay tuned for more. Thank you very much.
And down below in the valley you should be able to see also the Absalom tomb, Absalom the son of David, Yad of Shalom.